Students, in the last class, we had learnt about electric lines of force. An electric line of force, an imaginary line drawn in the path of a unit positive charge kept at a point in an electric field. Yeah, you know that it does not have any physical origin, it's an imaginary line. The concept of electric line of force was introduced by Michael Faraday. We had even learnt about the properties of electric lines of force. We had sketched electric lines of force in case of an isolated positive charge, isolated negative charge, a pair of like charges, and a pair of unlike charges. And we had discussed about 10 or 11 properties of electric lines of force. Today, before continuing further with the concept of electric line of force, we will learn about continuous charge distribution. Whenever you come across a situation in which charge is been distributed on a surface, it may be the case of a linear charge distribution or surface charge distribution or even volume charge distribution. So first we will understand what do you mean by linear charge distribution. In this distribution, charge is distributed on a line. For example, charge on a wire, or you can think of a charge on a ring. See, if you have a wire like this, the charges may be sitting on this wire. So, this is what is called as linear charge distribution, or even it may be the case of a ring like this, wherein the charges may be distributed on the ring. So, that is also the case of a linear charge distribution. In that case, we will have to think about a parameter which is known as linear charge density, normally represented by lambda. Lambda, linear charge density, is given by charge by length. So if it is a ring, then you know that the length will be equal to the perimeter, which is given by 2 pi r. Circumference is given by 2 pi r. So lambda will be charge by length, q by l, or q by 2 pi r in case of a ring. The SI unit would be charge in terms of coulomb, length in terms of meter. So coulomb per meter would be the SI unit of linear charge density. Similarly, surface charge distribution. In this distribution, charges are distributed on a surface. You can think of a charged sphere. If you have a charged sphere like this, the charges may be distributed on whole over the surface of this sphere. You know that always the charges will be distributed over the surface of a conductor, so it will be sitting on the surface of the sphere. In that case, we will learn about, we will have to concentrate on a parameter known as surface charge density. Surface charge density is represented by sigma. It is given by charge by area, q by a. So if you have a sphere, it is q by 4 pi r square. Surface area of a sphere is 4 pi r square, and the SI unit is coulomb per meter square. Then also volume charge distribution. See, if you think of volume charge distribution, in this distribution, charges are distributed in the whole volume of the body. Inside the over the total volume of the body, the charges will be distributed. You can think of a non-conducting sphere. You know that in case of a non-conducting body, charges would remain localized. They will not get distributed, or they will not get transferred onto the surface. They will remain localized wherever they are being placed. So, if the charges are distributed over the whole volume of the body, then we will have to think of a parameter known as volume charge density. Volume charge density, which is being represented by rho. Rho is given by charge by volume, q by v. In case of a sphere, it is q by 4 by 3 pi r cube. So the SI unit would be coulomb per meter cube. So this is about continuous charge distribution. So whenever you think of continuous charge distribution, you have to remember about these three parameters: linear charge density, charge by length; surface charge density, charge by area; volume charge density, charge by volume. Next to this, we have to know about a very important term known as electric flux. See, flux means basically anything which can flow. Anything which can flow is called as flux. Here we concentrate on the flow of electric lines of force. That's what is called as electric flux. Electric flux through a surface is defined as the number of electric lines of force passing normally through that surface. So whenever you have a charged surface, if you want to know what is the electric flux of the surface, it is the number of electric lines of force passing normally through the surface. For example, you can think of this sheet. If you want to know what is the electric flux of this sheet, you have to just know, you have to consider the lines of force passing normally. Normally means perpendicular to the surface. See, this is how. Perpendicular means like this, perpendicular to the surface. So the number of lines of force passing normally, that is perpendicular to the surface, represents the electric flux of the surface. In fact, electric field in terms of electric flux is represented as electric flux per area, unit area. In fact, flux is always represented by the symbol phi. This is like this. It's a Greek symbol read as phi. All flux are represented by the same symbol. Later on you will come across also magnetic flux. So here electric flux electric field in terms of electric flux is being written as E is electric flux by area. So the electric flux per unit area. So electric flux through a surface is also given by the product of area of the surface and the normal component of the electric field. So as you can observe here, it's also given by flux is given by the area of the surface and the normal component of the electric field. In fact, flux is a scalar quantity. So you may write it as E dot A. The same thing. Here, E is the electric field, A is the surface area. A vector A represents the areal vector. So the electric flux through a surface is also given by the product of the area of the surface and the normal component of the electric field. So in the figure, see here in this figure, ds is a small area. This is ds. This is the small area under consideration. This is ds. The flux through the surface ds is d phi. E is the electric field inclined at an angle theta to the normal to the surface. See, in fact, the electric field is in this direction, but the normal to the surface is in this direction. So the component of the electric field along the normal is E cos theta. Theta is the angle of inclination between the two. You know that whenever you resolve a vector, the component which is been associated with the angle will be associated with cos theta. So this is E cos theta. So this is the component along the normal to the surface. So thus the electric flux to the surface is given by the product of the normal component of the electric field. Normal component of the electric field is E cos theta and the surface area is ds. So you may write it as vectorially, vector E dot vector ds. That's how we wrote here. So the total flux to the entire surface S is, see, this is a surface, total surface is S. So the total flux to the entire surface is phi is summation of d phi. So that is sigma E cos theta into ds or sigma vector E dot ds. See, electric flux is a scalar quantity. When we think of the SI unit of electric flux, the SI unit of electric flux is Newton meter square per coulomb or volt meter. You have two units here. Both are SI unit. So Newton meter square per coulomb or volt meter. In fact, we can ascertain this. E dot A. See, E is the SI unit of E is, you know, that Newton per coulomb and area meter square. So that's why you may write it as Newton meter square per coulomb. Or if you remember, this is also written as volt per meter. electric field is also written as volt per meter into area is meter square. Hence, voltmeter may also be the unit. So, it is also written as voltmeter. Right. Next to this, with the knowledge of electric flux, we have to learn about a law, very important law, Gauss law in electrostatics. What is this Gauss law tells you? Gauss law tells you another way of calculating the electric flux through any surface. So the total statement of Gauss law, the total electric flux through a closed surface in free space is equal to 1 by epsilon naught times is equal to 1 by epsilon times the total charge enclosed by the surface. So the total electric flux through a closed surface in free space is equal to 1 by epsilon times the total charge enclosed by the surface. So according to Gauss law, if you want to know the total electric flux through any surface, closed surface, then you can have to, that is given by 1 by epsilon times the total charge or the surface. Remember, when you say a closed surface may be a real one or even maybe an imaginary one. So there is no compulsion that it should be a real one. Even it may be an imaginary surface. Even when you want to calculate electric flux in space, you can imagine a closed boundary there. Thereby you can apply Gauss law to that region. But remember, Gauss law can be applied only to a closed surface. The surface to which Gauss law is applied is called as Gaussian surface. Okay. So mathematically, Gauss law can be written as phi. Phi is electric flux, that is 1 by epsilon times sigma q. Sigma q is the total charge over the surface. So a closed surface to which Gauss law is applicable is called as Gaussian surface. If a closed surface encloses electric dipoles, you know that an electric dipole has two charges which are equal in magnitude but of opposite nature, the total electric flux through it is zero, because in an electric dipole you know that the total charge will be zero. So since total charge is zero, electric flux will be zero. So if a surface encloses only electric dipoles, then the total electric flux through it will be zero. Whereas if a closed surface encloses net positive charge, then you know that the electric lines of force will be outwards. And if a surface encloses net negative charge, then the electric lines of force will be inwards. Next is we have to know about applications of Gauss law. So we will understand what is the importance of learning this Gauss law. So, in fact, in your syllabus, 3 important applications have been mentioned. So, you look into them one by one. First one is electric field at a point due to an infinite long, straight, uniformly charged wire. See, in all the 3 applications of Gauss law, we will be concentrating on calculating the electric field or electric intensity at a point. That will be done using Gauss law. The first case is electric field at a point due to an infinite, long, straight, uniformly charged wire. First of all, you must be knowing what do you mean by a infinite charged wire. Infinite charged wire is a one whose radius is very small compared to its length. So, now we will consider a long thin wire with uniform linear charge density lambda. Just now we learned what is linear charge density. Linear charge distribution is thought of when you have distribution of charges on a wire or on a ring. So here we have a uniform long wire which is charged. The linear charge density is lambda. You know that linear charge density is given by charge by length. Lambda is Q by L. The electric field at every point in the plane depends upon the distance of the point P. See, this is the diagram. Here is the diagram. This is the wire. of some length L. See, the charges are distributed over along the wire. The linear charge density is said to be lambda. We have a point P here. We are interested in calculating the electric intensity at this point P due to this charged wire. This point P is in space. So to calculate the electric intensity at the point P, consider a cylinder of radius R and length L surrounding the wire as Gaussian surface. So I am considering and I am imagining a Gaussian surface here. The Gaussian surface now that I have to imagine is a cylinder. The length of the cylinder is L and the radius of the cylinder is R. See, this is the radius. This distance is radius. In fact, this distance is R. The cylinder is considered such that the point P, which is of interest, lies on one of the surfaces of the cylinder. These two are called as the end caps of the cylinder. Now, on the end faces of the cylinder, the angle between the electric intensity E and the unit vector along the normal to the surface is 90 degrees. See here, this is the point P. The electric field is in this direction. The electric field is in this direction. So the unit vector is also in the same direction. Now, if you consider the end caps, here the end surface, the normal to the surface is in this direction and the electric field is in this direction. The angle between the normal to the surface and the electric field is 90 degree at both the end surfaces. Since the angle is 90 degree, the contribution of electric flux from the end faces of the cylinder is 0, because you know that the electric flux is given by E cos theta into ds. But theta is 90 degree, cos 90 is 0, hence there is no contribution to electric flux from the end faces. The electric field at every point on the curved surface is same also on the curved surface. The angle between the electric intensity E and the unit vector along the normal to the surface is 0 degree. So see here, this is the curved surface. At any point on the curved surface, the electric intensity, the electric field and the normal are along the same direction. See, this unit vector is the normal to the surface. The electric field and the normal are along the same direction. Hence, theta between E and N will be 0. In this case, it was 90 degree. Here it is 0. Since it is 0, you know that cos 0 is 1. So, you can write E cos theta into ds may be written as E into ds. Also, electric flux is given by, we had learned that it is given by vector E dot ds. ds is the surface area. The surface area of a cylinder is given by 2 pi RL. Hence, so here you can observe phi is E into 2 pi RL, because E into ds, there we had written is E cos theta into ds. Since theta is 0 here, it is cos 0 is 1. E into ds, E is E itself, ds is 2 pi RL. The surface area of the cylinder is 2 pi RL. So the charge on the cylinder, we know that Q is lambda into L, because lambda is Q by L. Q is lambda into L. Further, we may write this as, according to Gauss law, flux is given by Q by 1 by epsilon naught times Q. So that is 1 by epsilon naught times Q may be written as lambda into L. So but from the definition of electric flux, just now we had learned that phi is E into 2 pi RL, and therefore we may write that, comparing these two equations, E into 2 pi RL is lambda L by epsilon naught. So we are interested in calculating E. See, L gets cancelled here. So E equal to lambda by 2 pi epsilon naught into R. 2 pi comes to the denominator here. 2 pi epsilon naught into R into n cap, where n cap is the unit vector in the direction of the electric field. So this is the expression for electric field at a point near a infinitely charged long straight wire. Lambda by 2 pi epsilon naught into R into n cap. What is lambda? It is the linear charge density. Next to this, we have to move on to the next application of Gauss law. Electric field due to infinite charged plane sheet. So here you have a plane sheet. It is said to